Hands on the wall. Now. He's 14. Screamed the woman. Don't care? He fits the description. The boy stood barefoot in pajama pants. No shirt. No shoes. Just skin. They forced him to the brick wall behind his own house. A knee pressed into his back. One officer drew a taser. His crime? He forgot his keys and climbed through his bedroom window. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. Jameer Davis wasn't a troublemaker. He was a freshman. Honors math. Played clarinet. Helped his mom with groceries. That night, he stayed late at school for tutoring. Took the bus home. Got off 2 blocks early. Corner store had his favorite juice on sale. But when he reached the house, he realized he'd left his keys in his locker. No one was home. His mother worked night shifts at the hospital. His older sister was with friends. He tried the front door. Locked. The side door. Also locked. He texted his mom. No signal. Low battery. He walked around back. Slid open the screen. Climbed onto the trash bin. Pulled the bedroom window. It opened. Same way he always did it when he forgot his keys. He slipped inside. 2 feet hit the carpet. He exhaled. Then, police. Don't move. Red and blue lights flared through the curtains. Jameer froze. The window still open. His foot still tangled in the blinds. He turned slowly. Officers, I live here. Step outside. Hands up. I live here. You think we're stupid? They dragged him out the window. Face scraped the frame. Pajamas snagged on a nail. They slammed him against the brick. He cried out. I'm not breaking in. This is my house. A neighbor watched. Then another. Phones came out. Someone shouted. That's Miss Davis's boy. He lives there. Shut up. Barked an officer. We got a suspect. The taser clicked. Please don't. Jameer cried. Turn around. He's a kid. Yelled the neighbor again. An officer yanked his arm behind his back. He screamed. This is a mistake. Then prove it. One of them snapped. Got ID? He shook his head. I'm wearing pajamas. One officer pulled a zip tie. The other kicked the trash bin aside. Sirens echoed. 2 more units pulled up. Now there were 5. One finally walked to the front door and rang the bell. No answer. They kept him on the ground. Jameer's cheek pressed into concrete. His knees scraped. His mouth dry. Then someone's voice cut through the noise. Hey, that's my son. His mother. Running from the curb. Keys still in hand. Hospital badge on her chest. She screamed. Pushed past the tape. What are you doing? The officer stepped in front of her. He was climbing through a window. That's his bedroom. He forgot his keys. They didn't move. She ran to Jameer, knelt down, covered his body with hers. Get off my baby. They didn't let her ride with him. His own mother. They put Jameer in the back of the cruiser, hands still zip-tied, face swollen from the brick wall. I want to call my mom, he whispered. The officer in the passenger seat didn't answer. At the station, they led him through a side door. No processing room. No juvenile intake desk. Just a bench in a hallway. Concrete floors. A vending machine with a flickering light. One cop stood guard. The other typed. Jameer tried to breathe. His wrist ached. His shoulder too. Then one officer leaned over. You know what I don't like? Jameer blinked. Kids who lie. I wasn't. You think climbing through a window in the dark, wearing no shoes, looks innocent? It's my window. The man stood back up. Doesn't matter. You matched the call. Jameer's throat tightened. What call? The cop clicked the mouse. Suspicious male. Dark hoodie. Late teens. Trying to enter a house through the back. That was the description. I'm 14. That's not what the caller said. What caller? The man turned the screen away. Anonymous. That's how it works. Jameer blinked back the heat in his eyes. I didn't do anything. That's what they all say? I was just trying to get inside my house. The officer sat back down. Yeah, and I was born yesterday. He typed faster. Across town, Jameer's mother pounded the glass at the front desk. Where's my son? You took him from his own porch. Ma'am, calm down. Don't ma'am me. He's 14. I want to see him. The desk sergeant didn't flinch. He's being questioned. He didn't do anything. He fit the description. Of what? A kid going home? Ma'am, if you don't calm down, we'll have to escort you out. She froze. That sentence fit the description. She'd heard it before. Funeral after funeral. Obituary after obituary. And now it was wrapped around her son. Back in the hallway, the officer printed something. Jameer tried to peek. Is that my statement? The man didn't answer. I didn't give a statement. The printer word. He watched the paper slide out. What are you writing? Still no answer. The officer stapled 2 pages together. Stamped it. Filed it. Jameer sat frozen. He hadn't signed anything, hadn't spoken beyond protests. But the paper existed. The statement would say, suspect was evasive, matched caller's description, showed signs of nervous behavior, refused to identify. No physical injury noted. Not one word would be true. But it didn't need to be, because now it was official. It was ink. And once something became ink, the burden to erase it would never be theirs. Only his. Jameer was released the next day. No apology. No paperwork handed over. Just a yellow slip with a date. Family court assessment. Mandatory. His mother read it twice. They think we're the problem. He didn't answer. Just pulled his hoodie over his swollen shoulder. At school, the counselor called him in. We're here to help, Jameer. He sat quietly. After an incident like this, it's normal to feel confused. She smiled too much. Her pen moved too fast. We'll be implementing a behavioral support plan. Jameer looked up. For what? Just preventive. Your teachers expressed concerns. Which teachers? She hesitated. It's a team decision. I didn't do anything. It's not about guilt. It's about growth. He stared at her. She clicked her pen and continued. You'll check in every morning. Report to Mr. Kelson during lunch. You'll attend a weekly behavior circle after school. That sounds like detention. It's support. He stood. I'm not violent. I'm not disrespectful. I didn't do anything. Jameer, if you walk out, I'll have to report noncompliance. He looked at the door, then back at her. Who reports you? She didn't answer. That night, a letter arrived. Child Protective Services. His mother opened it in silence. Jameer Davis has been identified as a minor involved in a law enforcement encounter. Home visit scheduled. She dropped the letter on the table. They're building a file. He sat on the couch, hands locked. I didn't break the law. She looked at him. Doesn't matter. You entered the system. Now they'll act like they're helping you while writing you off. He swallowed hard. What do? We document everything. She pulled out a spiral notebook. Wrote the date, the time, the officer's badge number from the arrest. If they lie, we'll have the truth. But Jameer already knew. Truth doesn't carry weight when the ink says otherwise. At school, students whispered. Heard you got arrested. What did you steal? You on probation? He stopped talking at lunch. Started walking alone. One teacher told him, you're smart, but angry. Don't let it ruin you. He wanted to scream. I'm not angry. I'm scared. But fear wasn't acceptable. Only guilt. Only silence. He went home and stared at the mirror. They're rewriting me, he whispered. He opened his math book, tried to focus, then turned to a blank page and wrote. They said I fit the description. I will write my own. It started with a pencil. Jameer dropped it in class, bent down to pick it up. The girl next to him flinched. A teacher saw, made a note. Student causes discomfort to peers through sudden movement. That went in the file. 2 days later, he bumped into someone in the hall. An accident. But the student stumbled, dropped their lunch tray. Jameer apologized. Still, a note. Aggressive physical contact. Requires monitoring. That one was sent to the counselor. She called his mother. We're seeing a pattern. Of what? He's reactive. Tense. Potentially disruptive. His mother bit her lip. He's traumatized. Then he needs help. He needs safety. That's not what the data suggests. Jameer stopped raising his hand in class. When he knew the answer, he stayed quiet. When he didn't, he braced for sarcasm. One teacher asked, You used to be so focused. What happened? He didn't answer. The behavioral support plan turned into weekly assessments. One day he was pulled from lunch for a wellness screen. A man he'd never met set him down. Jameer, you ever feel angry? I don't know. Ever get in fights? No. Ever think about hurting someone? Jameer blinked. Why would I? The man wrote something anyway. He walked home slower now. Eyes on corners. Hands always visible. He stopped wearing his hoodie. He started recording voice memos at night. March 22nd. They said I moved too fast again. I was reaching for my book. One morning, he noticed a red mark on his school record. Behavioral risk flag, moderate concern. He asked the secretary. She shrugged. That's internal. Nothing to worry about. But he knew better. At the clinic, the nurse looked twice at his name. You're the one from the report? What report? She didn't answer. His mother got quiet at night. Wrote email she didn't send. Read policies aloud. Then stopped midway, voice cracking. They're not waiting for you to fail. They're designing it. Jameer opened his notebook. Page 6. I've never fought anyone, but every page they write feels like a push. One day, I might push back, but only with proof. He hid the journal under his bed, not because of fear, because he was starting to think. They wouldn't just try to break him. They'd try to make him believe he was already broken. Jameer began to document everything, not out loud, not online. In a black and white notebook he hid inside a hollowed-out science textbook. Every interaction, every word, every moment where truth got twisted. March 27th, hallway, second period. I asked to use the restroom. Teacher said no. White student asked 2 minutes later, got a pass. March 28th, counselor asked again if I'd thought about hurting someone. I said no. She wrote, avoidant. He watched the patterns grow like mold. Same script, different scenes. At home, he mapped them out with colored pins. Blue equals behavior misread. Red equals exaggeration. Black equals fabrication. Green equals silence. Green appeared the most. Because silence wasn't neutral. It was agreement. By the end of the week, he had 27 pages. One teacher noticed. You writing a novel? He didn't answer. She laughed. Just don't let it distract from real assignments. He wanted to say, this is the only assignment that might save me. But he stayed quiet. At the library, he asked to use the copier. Personal documents? The librarian asked. He nodded. She watched, curious, as he fed page after page. He labeled the folder, School Surveillance Record J. Davis. Then he emailed it to himself. 2 accounts. One encrypted. One backup on a USB he hid inside a pencil case. He didn't trust systems anymore. Only systems that left a trail. At school, he started answering questions again. But only in short, careful sentences. At lunch, he sat where the cameras couldn't see him. In group sessions, he spoke last, after watching what others were allowed to say without penalty. One boy bragged about skipping detention. Laughed. No note. Jameer asked why he'd been flagged. The counselor frowned. You're still fixated on punishment. He took out his notebook after. Wrote. I didn't bring up punishment. You did. At home, his mother reviewed his notes with tired eyes. You're building your own case file. He nodded. They've got one on me. I want mine to be better. She smiled weakly. Just make sure you live long enough to use it. That night, he recorded a new voice memo. April 1st. They think I'm settling down. But I'm not. I'm watching. He paused. I'm not planning revenge. I'm planning clarity. He ended the recording. Then whispered. If they ever ask why I didn't break, it's because I had evidence. It happened fast. A shove in the hallway. A loud noise. A crowd. 2 students. 1 fight. And Jameer at the center of it. He didn't hit anyone. But that didn't matter. Because the boy who fell was white. And Jameer was already flagged. The assistant principal called him in. Tell me what happened. I was walking. Someone pushed me from behind. I turned around. That's all. The other student says you hit him first. Jameer looked straight at her. Asked the cameras. She blinked. They weren't recording that hallway. Battery failure. Of course. He took a breath. Then asked the others who saw. Most said they didn't see who started it. He could hear the door closing behind him. Quietly. 1 latch at a time. You'll be suspended for 3 days. Pending investigation. I didn't do anything. She slid the form across the table. We can't ignore the pattern. What pattern? She tapped the file in front of her. You've had 6 behavioral interventions this semester. And how many of them were because I spoke? She looked uncomfortable. Jameer, this isn't personal. He stood slowly. It's not just personal. It's calculated. That night, his mother got the email. Subject, recommendation for expulsion hearing. She slammed the laptop shut. No, not again. He opened his backpack. They lied. He placed his binder on the table. Opened to section 3, pre-incident timeline, April 11th. Timestamped. I was in homeroom at 9:12. The fight was at 9:16. My C-mate saw me leave. Cameras showed me walking alone. They said you hit him. I didn't. She stared at the notes. Then pulled out her phone. We're not playing defense anymore. They contacted the district. Filed for an independent review. Submitted as evidence. The binder. The scanned memos. The timestamps. They didn't call a lawyer. They didn't need one yet. At school, the halls grew quieter around him. The boy he'd hit came back the next day. No injuries. No bandage. But Jameer still sat at home, labeled violent. He added to his journal. They don't want truth. They want a narrative that matches the fear they sold. He turned the page. wrote a new line in bold. If they try to erase me, I'll make sure the next version of me arrives with proof. Jameer filed the grievance at 8:42 a.m. No lawyer, just a stapled packet of documentation and a typed letter addressed to the district's Office of Student Rights. Subject line: Formal complaint, racial bias and disciplinary action, student ID number 845729. Inside were daily logs from March through April, statements from classmates, timestamped emails, a printed copy of the school's own handbook, highlighting violation of due process. He walked into the admin office, handed it to the secretary. What's this? Complaint. About? My case. She hesitated, then buzzed the principal's office. 2 hours later, his mother got a call. We received Jameer's complaint. We're surprised by the tone. What tone? It reads like legal escalation. She didn't blink. Maybe because it is. At school, things changed. Fast. His locker got reassigned. No explanation. He was moved to a different homeroom, placed in a class with no one he knew. Lunch period switched. He noticed the difference instantly. Teachers looked through him. Hall monitors followed him. Even the librarian said, "You sure you're allowed to be in here alone?" He nodded. "I've got a pass." She didn't check it. At home, his mother reviewed every page of the complaint. "This is stronger than half the motions I've read at work." He looked at her. "You think it'll help?" She exhaled. "Maybe not now, but one day it'll be evidence that you resisted." Jameer added a new section to his notebook. Retaliation log. April 14th, principal refuses to meet. April 15th, removed from group project. April 17th, counselor cancels weekly check-in without notice. He knew what they were doing, tightening the air, making him feel watched, waiting for him to break. He didn't. He moved quieter, watched more, spoke less, until the hearing came. District panel, neutral location, no uniforms. He entered wearing a button-up shirt and his mother's stare behind him. The chairperson opened the file. "We've reviewed both the disciplinary referral and the complaint." A pause. It's clear that the situation lacks sufficient evidence for expulsion. Relief didn't come. Not really, because the damage was already done. But the paper had worked. It hadn't changed the system. It had stopped it for now. As they walked out, Jameer whispered, "They'll come another way." His mother nodded. "Then we'll write that down, too." They knocked at 6:17 p.m. 2 officers. Not in uniform, but they didn't have to be. Jameer opened the door halfway. "Is your mother home?" "She's working." "Then we'll wait." They stepped inside without being invited. His hands curled. "What's this about?" One officer smiled. "Just checking in. Heard you've been keeping a lot of notes lately." Jameer froze. "Who told you that?" "Doesn't matter. Just wanted to make sure everything's okay. You know, for safety." The second one scanned the room. "You live here alone often?" "No." "Ever feel unsafe?" Jameer didn't answer. "You ever write anything violent?" "No." "Ever mention hurting someone in that notebook of yours?" He blinked. "You read it?" They didn't respond. One stepped closer. "Look, we get it. Sometimes young men feel misunderstood, angry, like the world's against them." "Maybe because it is," Jameer said quietly. The officer smiled again. "That attitude can get you flagged." "I'm already flagged." The air thickened. One of them glanced toward the hallway. "We'd like to take a quick look, just for peace of mind." Jameer stepped back. "Not without a warrant." Both paused. They weren't expecting that. "You sure you want to make this adversarial?" "I'm sure I know my rights." The silence hung heavy. Finally, they turned. "Let your mother know we stopped by. We'll be in touch." He didn't speak as they left. Just stood there, watching the space they just occupied. After the door closed, he locked both bolts, then pulled his phone. He opened the audio app. April 19th. Police came to the house. Said they were concerned. Asked about my notebook. Implied I was dangerous. He exhaled. "I didn't threaten anyone." But writing the truth made them uncomfortable. He hit save. Then opened a new file. Labeled it, "Visit without warrant, Davis household." He printed out a template. Wrote down everything he could remember. Time, tone, questions, threats. When his mother came home, he showed her. She didn't look surprised. "They're watching now. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're dangerous to them." For remembering? No. For organizing. That night, Jameer didn't sleep. He reorganized his binder, made copies of everything, uploaded it to cloud storage. Sent a copy to a friend with instructions, if anything happens to me, open this. Because now, it wasn't just about school. Now, his memory had become a threat. They called it a professional concern evaluation. But Jameer knew what it was. An attempt to erase him, officially. The notice came in a white envelope. Delivered by hand. No return address. Subject, Student Conduct Panel, Davis, Jameer. The reason, behavioral instability, authority resistance, and obsessive documentation inconsistent with healthy academic engagement. He read it twice. His mother read it once. Obsessive documentation? He nodded. I guess they're afraid of memory now. The panel was scheduled for Friday. Room 112B. Closed door. No student representative. But Jameer had prepared. He wore a pressed shirt. No hoodie. Binder in hand. USB drive in his pocket. 5 adults sat across the table. Vice principal. Guidance lead. School resource officer. District rep. And someone from wellness. No smiles. Jameer, we're concerned about your patterns. He said nothing. You've been isolating. Refusing support. Recording staff. Disrupting routines. Still silent. Then he reached into his folder. Pulled out a printed report. This is a cross-referenced log of every disciplinary action filed against me this semester. Compared against timelines, witness accounts, and handbook policy. He slid it across the table. They blinked. You're saying our system is flawed? He looked up. I'm saying your system creates a paper version of me that doesn't match the real one. The school officer leaned forward. Where did you learn to compile like this? Jameer didn't blink. You taught me. Every time you filed something false, I learned how to document it right. The wellness rep spoke next. Jameer, this isn't punitive. We're trying to assess risk. Then assess this. He handed over a flash drive. It contains voice memos. Dated. Logged. Detailing every interaction where I was flagged for speaking, walking, asking questions, or existing in my skin. They stared. The district rep cleared her throat. Why keep all this? He looked at them one by one. Because I realized you weren't keeping me safe. You were keeping records, in case you needed to justify something later. Silence. The chair shifted uncomfortably. This will take time to review. Jameer stood. Take all the time you want. I've got backups. As he left the room, he didn't smile. But for the first time, he didn't feel small. That night, he wrote on page 47 of his notebook. They thought I was alone, but I brought every word they gave me. They thought I was quiet, but I was building a case. They thought I was broken, but I was binding a book. 3 weeks later, the panel's verdict came by mail. No further action required. Student may resume full participation. No apology. No correction. Just silence. Jameer read the letter once, then placed it in the back of his binder, behind the logs, the memos, the timestamps. Another piece of paper to add to the record. At school, no one said a word. No welcome back. No handshake. No teacher acknowledgement. But something had changed. No more detentions. No more random pulls. No more hallway misunderstandings. He hadn't defeated them, but he had outlived their expectation. In history class, the teacher said, the civil rights movement was about people marching for freedom. Jameer raised his hand. It was also about who got to write down what happened. She blinked. You have an example? He nodded. I do. After school, he walked home the long way, past the gas station, the courthouse, the district office. He wasn't checking for danger. He was checking for clarity. That night, he backed up all his files one more time, then opened a blank document. Title: Pattern Recognition. How systems are designed to see you before you arrive. He started writing, not to go viral, not to get justice, but to preserve memory, to make it harder to lie later. At the end of the file, he added a line. I am not an outlier. I am just the one who wrote it down. Then he emailed it to 3 people. His mother, his future self, and a student who had once whispered, how do you stay so calm? The next morning, a kid got pushed in the stairwell. Everyone said it was a misunderstanding. Jameer said nothing. He just wrote it down. Because truth doesn't win in moments. It wins in records. And sometimes survival isn't rising above. It's just refusing to disappear. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.